I've never shared this encounter with anyone, but I felt like it was time I got it off of my chest. Maybe telling someone else will help me make sense of it. It was July 4th, 1999, and I was driving down Highway 115 on my way home from a 4th of July barbecue. It was past midnight, and I was extremely tired. The muffled sound of the tires striking the pavement and the low hum of the engine was beginning to put me to sleep. I flicked on the radio and raised the volume to try to keep myself awake. I glanced into the rearview mirror, but saw nothing but the dark road behind me. A sudden burst of fireworks lit up the night sky, startling me. A few seconds later, a black Ford pickup truck roared past me, nearly running me off of the road. That jolted me awake, and I sat up straight and quickly put on my seatbelt. They pulled in front of me and then sped away into the darkness. What the hell was that all about? I thought to myself. I wondered where the truck had even came from. I literally checked my rear view right before, and there was no one behind me. About 3 miles up the road, I spotted the truck again. It was stopped and sitting on the side of the road. I swiftly glimpsed at it as I was driving by, and it seemed to be unoccupied. It was completely dark inside, and I didn't see anyone standing nearby or walking down the road. A shiver ran down my spine. I focused my attention back on the road, made sure my doors were locked, and pressed down hard on the gas pedal. As I sped away, the truck's headlights blinked and it pulled onto the road behind me again. It quickly caught up to me and then sped past me just like before. This is so strange, I said to myself. I don't know what it was, but something inside of me told me to turn around. For some odd reason, I was very curious to see why they had stopped back there. Maybe they were changing a flat tire, but I had a feeling something bad was going on. I should have called the police, but I've always been known to have that hero instinct, and I felt like someone needed my help. So I slowed down, and when I couldn't see the truck in the distance anymore, I pulled a U-turn and headed back in the opposite direction. I wasn't exactly sure where they had stopped, but I had a general idea, so I pulled over when I made it back to the area. I was just about to cut the car off when I heard a beeping sound. It was the alert that I get when my gas is running low. I didn't plan on staying long, so I decided to leave the key in the ignition in case I needed to make a quick getaway. I checked the back seat for a spare flashlight, but no luck. I slowly opened my door, stepped out, and then headed to the trunk to check there. I located one underneath my gym bag and turned it on. The light was dull, but it would have to do. I scanned the road before crossing to see if anyone was coming, but it was deserted, so I ran across. As soon as I reached the other side, I immediately noticed something that seemed out of place. There was a navy blue blanket lying in the bushes. It looked like it had just been planted there not long ago. I picked up a long stick and approached it cautiously. I stood a good distance away and poked at it, but it didn't budge. As I inched closer, it began to move. My adrenaline started pumping, and I rushed over to the blanket. I carefully unwrapped it from around what it was concealing. When I unwrapped the last section of blanket, a desperate gasp for air escaped a pair of dry, bloody lips. I couldn't tell if it was a male or female, they had been beaten so badly. I scooped the body up in my arms and quickly realized that it was a man from how heavy they were. I marched towards my car and flung them into the back seat. After I got into the driver's seat and prepared to drive off, I noticed that the car was turned off. Instantly, I thought that I had run out of gas, but then almost shit a brick when I realized that the keys I had left in the ignition were gone. I frantically searched for my cell phone and finally found it stuck between the center console and my seat. I dialed 911 numerous times, but of course this was the exact stretch of road that I always lost service on. I had no choice. I had to get out and walk up the road to where a signal would kick back in. I checked on the man in my back seat before I left. He was still breathing, but barely. I had to hurry, so I ran about a mile up the road. I was out of breath and could barely speak when the 911 operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? I found a body near mile marker 219. It's right before the Delaware exit. The dispatcher began to ask me a slew of other questions, but I was distracted. There was a car coming towards me. I began to wave my arms back and forth frantically. It slowed down. Thank God, I mumbled. As the car got closer, fear washed over me. It wasn't a car. It was the same black pickup truck. It's them! It's the killers! Please help me! I screamed into the phone. I could vaguely hear what the dispatcher was saying because my service kept going in and out. Then the call dropped. Finally, I made it back to my car. I darted inside and locked all of the doors. The truck had been following me the entire way back, speeding up and then stopping abruptly, trying to run me over. Why were they taunting me? Was I going to end up like the man I had found? I thought to myself. The truck pulled over to the opposite side of the road that I was on and just sat there, waiting. 2 hours later, the police still hadn't arrived. I started to assume that maybe the dispatcher hadn't heard the address correctly. This man was most likely going to die in the back seat of my car. When the sun started to come up, the pickup finally pulled away. I was so exhausted, I couldn't help but close my eyes.
Sir, is everything all right?
I awoke to the sight of a state trooper knocking on my window. I rolled it down and started to explain to him what had happened to me the night before. When I got to the part about the body I had discovered, he cautiously glanced into the back seat. He asked me to step out of the car. I did. Then he proceeded to search the back seat of my vehicle. After he had finished, he approached me with his hand on his gun and told me to place my hands behind my back. I don't understand. What's going on? I questioned as he roughly placed me in handcuffs and walked me to the patrol car. A few moments later, his backup arrived. He took me to the station to be questioned and then revealed to me that there had been a bloody navy blue blanket in the back seat of my vehicle. What he told me next shocked the hell out of me.
So what did you do with the body?
Subscribe for a new story Mondays, Wednesdays, and don't forget Saturdays. See you next time on
Gina's Nightmare.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.